like to talk a little bit about my military career, my grandkids, especially, and my own children have been encouraging me to always write something about my experiences that I've had in the Army. So I decided to begin to do that, and I'd just do a little bit at a time. And I'd like to talk a little bit about my pre-Army days. Just the other day I sat down and I wrote handwritten about the details and the things that were important to me way back when I was just a kid. And so, if it's okay with you, just let me read a little bit of it. And this is my pre-Army days. I was 21 when Uncle Sam did catch up with me, and here's just a little bit of my story. My parents had moved to northern Minnesota when I was 17, and I was left to fetch for myself. My folks had moved about 38 times during their 52 years of marriage. I guess my father didn't believe in pounding his 10 stakes too deep in Mother Earth. He believed this time on earth was just temporary. He was a pilgrim. And then comes eternity in heaven. So when the Spirit nudged him, and he received a call from wherever for help, like preaching or teaching the Word, having a Bible study in rural schools, in log cabins or log camps, he wouldn't hesitate for a second. The Lord's work always came first, which was a little difficult on the family, moving so often. Nothing was ever permanent with us, ever. And we always lost all our old friends, and we had to make new friends wherever we moved to. But in spite of it all, we had a good family relationship and loved each other. I remember one move that we made from Michigan to Wisconsin. My father rented a Model T ton Ford pickup. Everything we owned was piled on the truck, and our whole family sat on top of all our belongings, everything we had, which wasn't very much because we moved almost every year somewhere. That wouldn't be legal for us to be on top of the belongings today, would it? Never. The roads were so bad, and when we came to a hill, Dad would try to pick up speed coasting down the hill so we could make the next hill. But this one time, the old Model T couldn't make the hill, and it stalled halfway up the hill. Dad said, "Quickly, get some stones and put behind the wheels." And so we did. And it was late in the day. It was getting dark already. And we wondered where we would sleep for the night. It didn't happen just one time either. There were no motels those days. We never saw a hotel. So what could we do? I'll tell you what the only thing that we could do was to take a quilt, walk into the woods, and settle down for the night. That's how we lived. I remember by morning everything was damp from the dew that fell during the night, and before I went to sleep, the coyotes were out there howling, which really scared me to death. In the morning, my dad walked to a farmhouse a couple miles away, and his tractor came and pulled us up the hill, and we were hoping to make the next one in a better way. Where did we eat? No restaurants in those days. And if there were, we didn't have a dime for food, not a dime. My mother often told us about how they moved from Kansas to Minnesota by horse and buggy, that her mother toasted race bucks, and that's what they ate. So that's what my mother did in our travels. That's what she made as we traveled from place to place. I even remember as a lad, the cupboard was empty, and my dad got the family down on their knees praying for food. We did that. Today, you look to the government for help, don't you? We look to God in those days. The next day in our rural mailbox was a check for about $23. What rejoicing as I remember those times. we hitched up the horse to the buggy and traveled 8 miles to the closest grocery store. That day was the best food that we ever had for a long time.
What was it?
Oh, bread and butter. We always used lard on our bread, and then we'd sprinkle the lard with salt to make it tasty. Anyway, today we have motels and restaurants and enough money to purchase what we need, or maybe even want. A new car that can make many hills no matter how high. Are we that much better off now than we were back then? Yes. With a quality of lifestyle, look at the possessions and materialism compared to those early days. My greatest concern is that we never let the comfort of our lifestyle interfere or that we forget the poor and the hungry, spiritual needy. During my retirement, I traveled 8 years off and on in missionary work overseas. I saw the poor, I saw the needy, oppressed, depressed people in other lands. After reviewing the people of other lands, I came back to the States and declared the poorest of us are millionaires, almost. You know, that's what they ask the candidates, what is a millionaire? One guy said
rich?
$5 million. I won't say who. Well, back to the Esau family. We were poor, but I know my parents were looking out for us the best they could, knew how. Every evening before we crawled into bed, we got the whole family, my dad did, on their knees and prayed to our Father in heaven. They were poor, but they gave us the richest gift of all, a Christian